Declarative and scripted pipeline, one of the important questions in Jenkins, right? So this is something that we are going to cover in this video. This is going to be both theoretical plus practical. I will be focusing more on practical because unless and until you do it, you won't understand it, right? In this specific presentation, I have added this snapshot of whatever we are going to do so that whenever you're following along with this PPT, it will be easier for you to go through as a revision material, right? At the same time, there is one more thing I wanted to highlight. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to follow this GitHub repository where I will be adding incremental changes. So whatever we are going to learn will be properly documented from over here so that whenever you want to make any notes or whenever you want to do a refresher or a revision, you can go along with this one. Now, let me just explain the structure of this repository. So under the second directory, if you go to this repository, you have to go to Jenkins Pipeline. Under Jenkins Pipeline, there are two more subfolders under which you will find the readme.md. Okay. Now, this readme.md will contain the entire description of whatever things are present into it, right? Now, here you will find a MD file that will actually tell you what actually is a Jenkins pipeline. So if you are someone who is following along the previous video, this will act as a revision material for you. But if you're someone who is directly jumping to this video, this will definitely help you to understand what actually is Jenkins pipeline. So as a refresher, Jenkins pipeline is nothing but a kind of recipe where you break down things into multiple segments. Now, let's say if you want to prepare Maggie, so the step one would be to take an bowl, okay, add some water and then turn on the gas and then wait for 2 minutes. Basically, it's not 2 minutes, but let's wait for 2 minutes and finally the dish is ready in front of you. Likewise, the same way Jenkins pipeline work, here we are breaking down the actual step into multiple steps where we are telling it to, okay, in the first stage run this step and then in the second stage run this step and so on. So this is a basic overview what actually is a Jenkins pipeline. If you want to know more about what actually Jenkins pipeline is and how does it works, I would recommend you to go to the previous video because each video, just like the step and stages, are connected to the following one, right? Okay, so here you will find the short overview of declarative versus scripted pipeline. So I would request you to go along with this documentation. Now moving forward, so how we are going to proceed forward with this. Okay, so in this directory itself, if you go to scripted pipeline, you will find two Jenkins file. Okay, and again there will be a MD file that will tell you what actually this directory contains. Okay, so it will tell you first the syntax. Okay, now then it will tell you the key concept and then what actually it is going to do, right? So here if you see, it will actually tell you that what is the meaning of workspace in the scripted pipeline. So all sort of details is actually noted over here. And yeah, the next thing that you have to see is the Jenkins file. Now here you will find two sort of Jenkins file. First is Jenkins file scripted. So here you'll find the multiple stage Jenkins file for the scripted. And if you go to -ws, that is without, you'll find a single staged Jenkins scripted pipeline. All right, so the same structure goes for the declarative pipeline itself. If you go to the Jenkins tutorial in the second repository, okay, you will find the same structure in the declarative pipeline itself. In the README MD file, which is at the source of the subdirectory, you will find the definition what actually is a declarative pipeline. Then it will provide you the syntax. How does we write a declarative pipeline? Now, if you remember, declarative pipeline is a template kind of pipeline which is easier to understand and like it becomes very handy when we want to create any pipeline, right? So yeah, and also again you'll find the key concepts followed by the last level example for you to understand. Okay, and again the same example we are going to follow here as well. So here we have added a declarative pipeline and post that we have added without stage declarative pipeline. Okay, now Shubham, what is the key difference between both the pipeline with the in terms of Jenkins file? So both the Jenkins pipeline or both the Jenkins file, both for declarative and scripted, I have kept it same for us to understand how does things work under the hood. Okay, now what is the key difference between running a scripted pipeline and what is the key difference between running a declarative pipeline, right? That is the basic reason I have kept both the Jenkins file same. here we are going to see the behavior of scripted and declarative pipeline, right? So enough of the exploration done. Okay, now let us directly go to the PPT. I would like you to show the PPT so that it will be easier for you to visualize what actually we are going to do. Post that, we are going to perform the same operation, so it would be easier for you to understand, right? All right. So let us first begin with the declarative pipeline itself. Declarative pipeline is an easy structured beginner friendly pipeline. Okay, it is just like a filling a form with fixed section which is easier to read, and there are very less chance of making mistake. Okay, now before even proceeding further with this, I would like to take you to to VS Code. Here, let me just create one Jenkins file. So here, I will just going to replicate this entire thing, whatever is created. Okay. So the first thing to write a Jenkins file is you will need a pipeline. So here, just write pipeline. Okay, and then if you're using Jenkins, if you're using VS Code or any IDE, okay, so technically it will become very handy for you to understand how to open the curly braces and close it, because it is a default feature given by the IDEs, and you don't need to worry about the indentation also, right? So here, okay, let us first understand this basic structure of this templated declarative pipeline. So the first thing is you have to write pipeline, and here agent any. So here, if you remember, we were talking about worker node and master node in the initial videos. So basically here we are writing any because like we haven't configured the worker node, right? So that is the main meaning of agent. Now stages. Now in order to cook this dish, what are multiple steps that are needed, right? So let's consider you want to build an image and deploy an image. So that is the activity that you want to do for the application, right? So here in the stages, you break it down into three stages. The first stage would be to build the code. Okay. Now here it is a label for us to understand. Here you can write builded by Shubham, builded by Neha, builded by Sapta, or whatever name that you want to display on the user screen. It doesn't matter. The actual thing, the actual magic is inside the steps. Okay. Now steps is the shell command that you would be executing inside that pipeline. Okay. Now it is further classified into three stages because this pipeline consists of three steps: build step, test step, and deploy step. Now here you will see the build, test, and deploy would be the labels, but the actual magic would be done by these steps. So here you can replace it with the Linux command also. Right now I am just showing it to you how the things are working. That's why we made use of echo. Now what it will do, it will print building, testing, and deploying over the console output. This same pipeline we are going to run to see how does things work for us, right? Okay, coming back. So this is the actual structure, the template of declarative pipeline, where we have seen, okay, what is pipeline, what is agent, what is stages, and what is stage. So the template part here would be, okay, let me just make it very much simpler. Let me remove the stage. Let me remove the stage as well. So here you are dealing with pipeline, agent, stages, stage. And inside that stage, there is steps. And inside this step, you can just write the commands. Okay. So this is something that we are doing. Okay. Now let's say if you want to add one more stage, then you don't have to worry about anything. Go here and add one more stage. So this would be stage 2. And here you will again write the command. So this is the basic template, okay, for you to proceed forward with declarative pipeline. All right, moving forward with the declarative pipeline itself. Now, what are the things that declarative pipeline give us, right? See, if we have two equivalent option, why we are considering declarative pipeline in the very first sense. So here we have a very good option, that is restart from stage. Now, this is something that we are going to do the practical. At that time, you will understand what is the actual significance of restart from stage. Now here, if I go back to Visual Studio Code, here you saw that, okay, there are multiple stages that we are currently working into. Now let's say there is a requirement where you don't need that stage to get executed, right? So here a declarative pipeline comes very handy for us to skip the stages, and that is the option provided in the declarative pipeline. By default, it's a free gift given by Jenkins community. Okay. Now moving forward. Now, this is the console output of the declarative pipeline. How does things work? So, if you see over here, under declarative pipeline, if I go to without stage, this is something that we are going to run. Okay. And this is the output that we are going to see. Okay. Now, don't worry. This might look overwhelming. Now, when we are going to do the practical, it will become very much easier for you to understand. Okay. Now, that was all about declarative pipeline. Now, let us proceed with scripted pipeline. So, what is scripted pipeline? So, basically, it is written in a Groovy language. If you're someone who is dealing with Java, you will find it very much easy. It is just writing your own story and you decide what needs to be done. Okay. Now, if you see syntactical wise, it is very much similar to declarative pipeline. There is only one difference, that is node. And here, the another difference would be the source checkout, which comes by default in declarative pipeline. But when it comes to scripted pipeline, things become very much straightforward. Okay. Because you have control of everything. And this is how the output of scripted pipeline looks like. Correct. So enough of theory part. Okay. Let us directly jump to the AWS and let me just log in to my Jenkins dashboard. So till now we were here. Okay. Now let us create a new pipeline for this specific demonstration. Now here there is one more new thing that we are going to learn today. Okay. That is, this time we won't be writing the pipeline inside the job. Here it will check out the Jenkins file from the source itself. Okay. So let us click on new item and here let us create a new pipeline. So I'll just write Jenkins scripted pipeline. Okay. So this would be a pipeline job and let me click on OK. Now, as I mentioned, this time we won't be writing the Jenkins file directly into here. Okay. But we are going to copy the Jenkins file from the repository itself. So for that, let me go to the repository, copy the code, copy the URL and paste it over here. Now here in the definition itself, you need to provide pipeline script from source code manager. Now here it is asking you for SCM. Right now the default is none, but here you have to select Git. And then it will ask you further question. What is the repository URL? So here you have to paste the URL that we copied. Now, since it is a public repository, there is no need for you to provide the credentials. We are going to see how you can provide the credentials in Jenkins. Okay, there are two methods which I am going to tell you in the coming videos. But right now, let us focus on the basics itself and then we are going to master on this thing. Okay, now here you need to specify the branch. Go back to the repository and here you can see right now we are only dealing with main branch. So remove the default master and change it to main. Okay. And the last thing is script path. Now see, whenever you're dealing with any project that is dealing with Jenkins, okay, it will consider the Jenkins file is stored in the root path. Okay. But for this project, the things are different. So the Jenkins file is actually stored inside the second folder. Okay. Go to the scripted pipeline. Okay. And here are the Jenkins pipeline stored. Okay. And go to the first one, that is Jenkins file scripted without space, without stage. Okay. Now, how do I provide the path? Okay. So it is very much straightforward. Just copy from here, copy the path and paste it over here. Okay, this is one of the important thing that I am telling you because this is the place where you might do the mistake. So if you provide the script path properly, it will pull the code from the center source code manager and will locate the Jenkins file and then it will do the further operation. And then click on apply and save. The initial work is done. The pipeline is created. Now, if you go to build now, okay, a job is scheduled. The build is triggered. Now, what is the thing that is going to happen behind the hood? It will pull the code from the source code manager. Okay, it will then run the scripted pipeline and will show you the output. Now, see here what is happening. It is storing the changes into the workspace and by the name of the by the name of the pipeline that you created. Next thing is it checked out to the source code manager. Okay, and here it actually ran this Jenkins file. Okay, now what it does here, it is displaying hello and then it is running this command that is hello world. If you go to the console output, you'll see it is echoing the hello world command and it is printing. If you go back to the scripted pipeline, there is one thing that is missing over here. Okay. So the thing is, I mentioned that that would be a display part that you would be looking into. But Shubham, I am not able to see anything over here apart from the green check that you saw. So here again, we are going to deal with one of the plugin that we are going to install in this specific video. That is a stage plugin. Now go over to the home page under dashboard, go to the settings, and here this time we are going to deal with a new plugin that is a stage viewer plugin. Okay, go to available plugins and here this type stage. Okay, and here you need to install this plugin that is pipeline stage view. Click on install. Now, since this is the configuration change, just restart the Jenkins. Okay, it would be easier to reflect the changes for us to visualize it, and then you are going to learn it in a very better way. Okay, now again, thing to note, do not install many plugins since it will add more value to your Jenkins, but at the same time, it will slow down the speed. Okay, so just be cautious when you're dealing with the plugins. Only install those plugins that is adding value to your pipeline, right? So let me just log in right now. Okay, so the download is in progress and it got successful. Now go back to the pipeline that we created. Okay, so this is the pipeline that we created, and here, okay, you should see a visual. Okay, now Shubham, when you were saying about the display label, I was talking about this label. Okay, so this is the generic view that you might see in all the video, but this is the thing that is working under the hood. At the same time, there is one more thing that you can explore, that is if you hover over here, 324 milliseconds. So this is the execution time that it took. If you click on log, instead of going directly to the console, it will give you user friendly, easier to understand stage logs. Okay, so if you something get failed, you can just refer these logs and you can troubleshoot the things very much easier. So this was about scripted pipeline, and this was without the stages. Now let us level up the learning with stages. Okay. Okay, let us go back to the repository and here go over here. Now here I'll copy the path. Now what is happening over here is we define node. Okay, and there are three stages. Okay, first is build, second is test, and third is deploy. And all of them are just printing a console output. Okay, all right. Go back to configure. And if you go to pipeline, you just have to replace the path. Okay, the file path of the Jenkins file. The source code manager remains the same. I just have to change the script path. Click on apply and save. And I'll trigger the pipeline again. This would be second job for the scripted pipeline. The job is success and you can see build, test, deploy. Okay. Now I'll go over here, build, test, and deploy. The labels are actually getting highlighted over here. So all the labels are actually getting highlighted over here is actually coming from this specific segment. Here you can just, if you want to explore, just try some random name, and this is something that you will get the output for. Okay. If you again hover over this build and click on log, it will tell you, okay, in that specific stage, what are the things that we're doing. Okay. If you go to test, if you click on log, it will tell you, okay, what are the commands which are running behind the hood and what are the logs for that specific stage. Okay. So that was all about scripted pipeline. Now let us go with the main thing, that is the declarative pipeline. Okay. Let me go to new item and I'll create one more pipeline for declarative. Jenkins declarative pipeline. Just make ds small. Okay, this would be again a pipeline. Okay, I'll again go back to the repository. I'll copy the URL. Okay, I'll again go to pipeline. This time this is script from SCM, that is source code manager. The source code manager is Git. Okay, and I'll provide the URL and the branch is main, and here I'll just replace the script path. So I'll go to the second folder. This time we are dealing with declarative pipeline. And the first thing that we are going to run is a declarative pipeline that to without stage. I'll just copy and paste the path over here. This is the path. Apply and save. Build now. Now here we are going to compare the declarative pipeline output with the scripted one. Okay. Now see, if you remember, I'll just duplicate this video, this dashboard. Okay. And I'll go back to the scripted pipeline. So if you go to the first one in the console output and console output for the declarative pipeline, what it is doing actually, as I mentioned earlier in the PPT itself, that there is a default behavior of checking out from the source code manager that is acting as a first stage in declarative pipeline. Okay, this comes by default. And if you go to the scripted pipeline, it directly pulls and run only the stage which are defined over there. Okay, so that is one of the difference between declarative pipeline and a scripted pipeline. But both did the same job. Here also it printed hello world. If you go to declarative, here also it printed hello world. Okay. Now coming up to the second part, that is I mentioned that if you want to skip a specific stage, that can be done in declarative pipeline, but not in scripted. And that is the power that declarative pipeline gives us. For that, let me go to configure. And this time we are going to deal with the Jenkins declarative pipeline, which has multiple stages. Now let me explain you this file as well. Here we define the pipeline and here we wrote the agent any. Okay. Now here we have a template, that is inside stages, there will be multiple stage, and in each stage there will be one label accompanied by a step. Now when I mean by step, it would be the Linux command that we need to run. Okay. It can be a Linux command, it can be a Java command, it can be anything that you want to run. Okay. Right. So right now we understood this skeleton. Let me just copy the path of the Jenkins file for the declarative pipeline. I'll go back to pipeline and this time I'll just replace the script path and paste it over here. All right. Now let me just trigger the build again. Now, as per the expected behavior, it will do a declarative checkout from the source code manager. It will build, test and deploy. Now, Shubham, you mentioned since we installed that plugin, it will show you graph. If you show you the logs in a very beautiful manner, you just have to hover over here and click on logs. And you'll see the same logs are listed over here. If I go back to scripted pipeline, okay, for the job number 2, if I go over build and click on log, it did printed the same output which we are getting over here. Okay, there is no difference in the output. All right. Next thing is, Shubham, you said that in declarative pipeline, okay, apart from it doing the checkout from source code manager, there is one more thing that you can do. Okay, now what is that? So basically we were talking about restart from stage. If you see on the way to the left, there is a option for restart from stage. Now click over here. Now, where does the stage are actually coming from? So if you go back to the Jenkins file, here I have added stage build, stage test, stage deploy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these are just the visual labels for us. Okay. Now, those are the stage name that you are getting over here. If you go to test and click on run, it will skip the first stage and it will run. Okay. If I go to the console output, before even going to the output itself, you will see it in the visual itself. See, here you will see a blank over here, meaning that stage has been skipped. If you go to the console and under console output, you'll see stage build X is skipped due to this build restarting from the stage test. Okay. Now you can further skip one more stage. Okay. Now if you don't want to execute the initial 2 stages and click on deploy. Okay. If you want to just execute the last stage, select the stage and click on run. It will skip the initial 2 stages and will run. Okay. The only thing that will run for sure is declarative checkout SCM. Okay. That comes by default when we are dealing with Jenkins pipeline, that to a declarative one. Okay. I hope you understand the key differences between a declarative pipeline and a scripted pipeline. Okay. What are the powers that declarative pipeline give you? What are the powers that scripted pipeline give you? Okay. Now, I would request you to go along with this repository. I want you to explore this repository. Just play along with the stage names, okay? Change or whatever you want. In the coming video, we are going to do a short project that will give you more clarity how does declarative pipeline will work, okay? I would request you to go through the MD files which is mentioned in the repository, and I want you to go through this video once or twice so that the more you go through this section, the more you'll understand. All right. So that was all in this video, and I will see you in the next one.